Guys, welcome back to Synth Saber, where today we're going to be ranking all of the Sonata Arctica albums. Sonata Arctica are a power metal band from Finland, and they have some of the best power metal albums I think of in the genre. Even though they've kind of turned away from power metal more so in recent years, their music is still excellent, and I wanted to, just for a bit of fun, to rank basically my favourites. Just so you know, none of these albums in particular are albums that I don't like, except maybe one. So we're going to basically go right through. But if I give something a D, it doesn't mean that I think it's like a trash album. It just means like kind of like I don't really love it. So we're going to start out with their debut, Ecliptica, which is, I think, just a fantastic album. Some of their best songs on it, like Full Moon, Letter to Dana, Replica. I think Ecliptica probably has the best ballads in Sonata Arctica history, but it's also got this sort of Stradivarius influenced sound that they kind of they started off as more of a hard rock band, and they brought in the Stradivarius influence to turn more into a power metal band. And I think of that style, Ecliptica is an album that a lot of people want them to go back to, and they even went and remade it a couple of years later, even though it's not in this list here. And thanks to Gold Silver for making the template. So yeah, Ecliptica, I'm gonna give it an A, just because while I really do enjoy it, I think there's actually some better Sonata Arctica albums out there, and basically the next one is going to be the first one that is better. Yeah, what can you say about Silence? It has so many good tracks on it. It's kind of the start of the Caleb saga, which is a series of songs that are just, it's hard to kind of explain, but I think they're just about some kind of stalker guy. But here nor there, it's got some amazing singing, amazing riffs. Tony Kakko is probably best. Well, I'm not going to say best vocal performance, but like, this is classic Sonata Arctica, basically at the peak of their style. I think it is better than Ecliptica because the songs are more longer, more progressive, just like more polished than Ecliptica. There's still two great albums, but I'm going to give Silence an S, which is one of their really their greatest albums. So I think after that came Winter Hearts Guild, which I would say it continues the style, but it kind of it does slow things down a bit, but it's definitely not the same kind of album as Silence. It doesn't have as much on it and as many ideas on it, but it's kind of a refinement of their power metal songwriting. Some amazing vocals on it, and some like really interesting just like the parts of the album are very interesting, like the choruses and the song structures and the kind of, there's development from these two first albums, but it's not quite clear exactly where they're going, but it's still like a lot of fun to listen to, and I think often an album that is overlooked for Sonata Arctica. So we're going to put that up at A. Now next up, I think a lot of Sonata Arctica fans will know this one. It's Reckoning Night, and I think for me this may be possibly the best out of all of their albums. It's got a real dark, probably their heaviest style. Tony Kakko on the vocals mixes in a lot of rougher vocals with the, it's still great singing and all that, but it has a different tone of voice, and it's all of the things that you kind of like about him as a singer, like his way to adapt different personas and sort of sing a song with different, almost like with different voices and different character perspectives. He really shows off everything that he can do on this album. It's got some of the best singing. It's often the album that vocal coaches will tend to to check out Tony Kakko singing, but it's also got some of the best guitars. It's got great songwriting. White Pearl Black Oceans is probably my favourite Sonata Arctica song. It's the most epic, I think, and they've really got a lot of tracks like Reckoning Night, Don't Say a Word. They're actually the one song, but never mind. But yeah, all in all, just a great album. I would give it like a 10 out of 10. I think it's my favourite. And everything in S here is pretty much like, a 10 out of 10 album, except this one, which a lot of fans will probably dispute me on, but Unia. I think Unia is a really good Sonata Arctica album. It's just that it's in a different style than we're used to. If Sonata Arctica were like Megadeth, then this would be like their countdown to extinction, and Reckoning Night would be their rust in peace, in the sense of Unia marks a change in a different direction for the band. They said at the time that they were trying to make go for more of a progressive influence instead of power metal, but it doesn't sound like Dream Theater or anything like that. It really sounds like its own thing. A fair amount of the fans, as far as I can see, sort of turned against Sonata Arctica after this album. But I think if you go and you really listen to it, and you listen to the songwriting and the textures and the just the way that the songs are put together, it's really varied, and it's almost like a theatrical album. Caleb is a great song. I'm kind of struggling with some of the song titles on this one, unfortunately, and I have been I probably will for some of the rest of these, but it is an album that I rate really high. Black and White and Paid in Full are two excellent singles that front loaded the album. It's maybe not as epic as the other two albums that I've given an S to, but I'd still say I think everything that Sonata Arctica have done to move away from the power metal style, I don't think they've done it better on any album than Unia. I think that is their most successful attempt at that, but it's also because it was the first album after the power metal albums. It's the most divisive. It's still got power metal elements to it as well. It's not soft or anything like that by any means. So what do we have up next? There was a bit. I remember there being a long wait between these albums for the Days of Grays, but really when you listen to it, when it came out with this single called Flag in the Ground, and I think Flag in the Ground is probably one of Sonata Arctica. Like, if you wanted to show them a song to show what the band is all about, you would probably show them either Don't Say a Word or Flag in the Ground. And it's interesting because Flag in the Ground was kind of written for one of the earlier albums as well, so you can tell that influence there. But it's got a death aura. It's got a lot of good like melodies on it. It's got some great singing. Some of the songs are really good, but I don't think it kind of is as cohesive as their previous albums. It's a very kind of like, there's a lot of music on it. The Last Amazing Grace is a great track. But yeah, I think it's a really good album, but I don't think it's their best. But a lot of people, if they stuck with the band, they may have ended up enjoying this album if they didn't like Unia. And this is kind of the trend from the band from now on, is kind of every time they were bringing out an album, there would be discussion over whether they're going back to that power metal style from Silence and Ecliptica. And the Days of Grace tries to kind of satisfy everything. And just as a bonus, the actual track Days of Grace, even though it's not like a metal song, it's got like, so it's really it's a really good listen. I recommend that. So I'm trying to see what they brought out next. I think after that there was an album that I'm not a fan of, and I'm going to actually give it a D. And it's not because I think it's terrible, but it's the album didn't really connect with me at all. And I'm a big Sonata Arctica fan, but I don't like I Have a Right. There was a nice message behind that song and all, but I don't like a lot of the tracks on this. There's some interesting stuff, but there's the Wildfire songs kind of wrap up some of what started on Reckoning Night, and we see with this album the continuance of some of the stories that the band have set up on previous albums, but I don't think it really holds together very well. The first half of the album sounds really different from the second half. It's kind of disjointed, and overall, yeah, I've just never liked Stones Grow Her Name very much. Although I have seen that those people who do like it, it tends to be one of their favourites. After that, we have Pariah's Child, and this was basically labelled as like a return to form for the band to the power metal style. And again, is it power metal? I don't really feel that it is. It's more in line with some of this stuff like the Days of Grays and Unia, and if you can't stand that, you're probably not going to love this. The production of it is the first album where I think they got their bassist to do some production work on it, and I actually think it turned out okay on this album. But we're going to see how, this ended up kind of like being a bit of a detriment to the band in the long run, I would say. Not the bassist, but the overall mix. I think it's not been very good, and it sounds very different to everything that I've already put on the list. But I would say it's good. Blood is a great song. It's got like a lot. It's got a lot of good parts in it. I think there's some called like "Life Is Better Alive." That's a really good song to end the last song on the album. Love is one of the kind of nice ballads, but it's a bit soft, like kind of too sweet. But there's Running Lights is very good. I don't like X Marks the Spot. It's a hit and miss album, but the songs that really do land on it, I think, are very good, and for that reason, I'm going to actually give it a B. I think between a C and a B, if there was one. So next up we have, I think this was called The Ninth Hour, and it's preoccupied a lot with sort of Tony Kakko's, the singer and songwriter's, fear, or their kind of like take on the environment and pollution and stuff like that. Now the whole album isn't like that. It's not a concept album, but it's got some really good songs on it. But the only problem with it is that I would say that the mix of this album is the first album where a lot of people were like kind of noting that the mixing of it and the production of the album just wasn't that good. And I think if the album had been sort of mixed a little bit better, that it actually would have ended up maybe going up to an A tier album. Because I do think the songs on it are quite strong. But ultimately, I would put it like around where Pariah's Child is. I would actually say Pariah's Child is a bit worse, and this one is a bit better. But it's not. There's a fair amount of things that keep it from being like one of Sonata Arctica's best albums. And these aren't bad. Like the albums that I've put from B to D. Oh, these aren't bad albums. But they're not they're just not my favorite, and the same goes for their most recent album, Telvio, I think it is. I'm going to think about where I'm going to put that. No, not D. I like Telvio. I like some of this. I like Storm the Armada. I like Who Failed the Most. I like Cold. I like a lot of the songs on it, and when it came out I actually felt that it sounded a lot like the songwriting style that I like on Unia. We got to hear some more of that on Telvio. I like the ending track in the garden. It's very soft, nice musical piece, but it's overall it's got the same production problems that the Ninth Hour has, and it really drags it down on this album because the mix sounds kind of muddy to me. I don't know, the mixing of Tony Kakko's vocals before this album came out, he said that he really wanted to sing in a way that was less like at the top of his lungs, where it would do damage to his voice and kind of express other tones. And I don't think that's a problem, and I think he's done that before. But he's getting crowded out, and it's so weird hearing a singer that is as amazing as Tony Kakko getting drowned out in his own band, like by kind of like a production mix that is just a bit of a slog to listen to, and that's really what drags the album down. It's not for me that it's too slow or that it doesn't have some cool songs on it, because I think it does, but I would ultimately say, even Tony Kakko recently did a song with the former guitarist from Sonata, Arctica, Johnny, who was involved with these first couple of albums, and he just sounds great on that. He really sounds like, back to the way that we're used to him. So I don't know what went wrong on this album, but I'm hoping that for the new Sonata Arctica album that they can kind of resolve some of these issues and sort of get back onto the trajectory of, like, we would love to have at least some more albums like up in this A category here. I'm going to give Telvio a C, and if the production was better, I'd be happy enough to give it a B. I think it is a B, but it's just dragged down. So Pariah's Child sounds good, doesn't have as many good songs. Telvio has more songs that I like, doesn't sound as good. So overall, these albums that I've picked up here, Winter Hearts Guild, Ecliptica, Days of Grace, Unia, Reckoning Night, and Silence, these are all like must buy Sonata Arctica CDs if you're interested in the band. And then if you like them, you can kind of explore these other albums, because as I said before, like, none of them are bad, but I think power metal is having like a really big resurgence at the moment, and this would be a great time for Sonata Arctica to just come back with like a really good album. But it remains to be kind of seen what direction they're going to go in on the new one. I haven't heard that much about it, but that's how I would rank these. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Sonata Arctica albums are, and if you like the video, give it a like. Thanks.